Friends, Romans, countrymen, I'm David DiCerto from Castletown Media, and I'll be taking a look at Gladiator II through a Catholic lens. It's hard to believe that it's been more than 20 years since Russell Crowe strapped up his sandals and asked moviegoers, "Are you not entertained?" Now, director Sir Ridley Scott returns to ancient Rome with even more bloodier blood sport, imperial treachery, and epic spectacle in Gladiator II, set 2 decades after the Academy Award-winning original. When it comes to orchestrating grand-scale warfare on the big screen, remember the first film's battle in Germania? No one does it better than Scott, who delivers the goods once again with massive set pieces like the opening aquatic siege of Numidia, a Roman province in North Africa comprising of what would today be parts of Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, and where St. Augustine would later be born. It's during that sequence when we first meet Irish actor Paul Mescal's Lucius, a skilled warrior with a shrouded past who's taken captive, sold into slavery, and winds up slashing his way to the Roman Coliseum and into the hearts of the bloodthirsty mobs clamoring for carnage. Sound familiar? His rising celebrity status attracts the attention of an always watchable Denzel Washington as plotting promoter Maximus, a war-weary general played by the Mandalorian's Pedro Pascal, and returning Connie Nielsen, who reprises her role of Lucilla from the original. Like the ancient Romans who flocked to the gladiatorial games, fans of the 2000 film, including myself, looking for more of the same, won't be disappointed, at least not when it comes to the spectacle. Advances in CGI effects have given Scott the ability to bring to life even more ambitious pageantry, including an audaciously conceived naval battle reenactment in a flooded Coliseum, something I'd read about in books on Roman history, but have never seen on film. But while in many ways bigger than the original film, this one feels dramatically smaller, or perhaps emptier is a better word. The grandeur of production design is there, as is the stirring music. Thankfully, composer Harry Gregson Williams incorporates strains from Hans Zimmer's Oscar-nominated score, but something is missing. True, the original glamorized its brutality. Scott's use of lighting and camera work gives both films' violence a cinematic slickness, not surprising from the director of such visually iconic movies as Blade Runner and Alien, not to mention Apple's groundbreaking 1984 commercial. But in the first movie, the violence, though intense, even gratuitously gory at times, seemed to serve the emotional story. Here it feels more like the opposite, as if the plot is mere plot device to bridge the savage set pieces, driven by a determination to outdo the first film. I can imagine the filmmaker saying, Maximus fought tigers, well, how about we have Lucius face off against a gladiator riding atop a battle rhino? By the way, did the Romans really have sharks in the Coliseum? Imaginative embellishments aside, dramatic license is also taken with some of the historical facts. But that's not the real problem, nor is it that the plot that is there feels a bit retread, following its predecessor pretty much beat for beat. No, the real problem is something else. Russell Crowe's Maximus embodied the idea of the virtuous pagan. His performance, which nabbed him a Best Actor Oscar, evoked a tragic, almost Shakespearean figure, Hamlet in a tunic, who, amid the hacking of limbs, grappled with timeless questions of family, tradition, duty, honor, and morality, against an epic backdrop. Sure, it was rife with allegorical allusions to present-day America. The original film's co-screenwriter, David Franzoni, outright said, "The movie's about us." But the real arena was Maximus's soul. This film attempts to strike a similar noble tone, but it just doesn't work as well, at least not emotionally. And while questions raised about slavery and freedom, power and corruption are interesting, the film's anti-colonial overlay of racial politics feels anachronistic for antiquity. Another weakness is the new film's ersatz villains, the fraternal co-emperors Gaeta and Caracalla, played by Joseph Quinn and Fred Heckinger, who veer into cliché debauchery as their toga-clad tyrants. In stark contrast, Joaquin Phoenix portrayed Commodus with brilliant complexity. Yes, he was crazy and murderously evil, but he managed to inject his unhinged decadence with both subtlety and even pathos in his desire for his father's affection. Perhaps nothing summarizes the two films' differences with more economy than their respective taglines. In 2000, it was inspirational, "A hero will rise," now downgraded to "prepare to be entertained," a tagline worthy of a mob, ancient or modern. As Petronius says to Nero in the 1951 film Quo Vadis, "Mutilate your subjects if you must, but I beg you, do not mutilate the arts." As with the original, this film all but ignores any Christian presence in Rome, which by the early 3rd century was significant. There is one brief, throwaway mention of Christians, but Scott, whose filmography is not noted for its positive depictions of Christianity, has once again created a pagan world stripped of any Christian elements or influence in which to explore his themes within a decidedly secular framework. At least in the original, we got the sense that Maximus was a devout and pious pagan, that his actions were rooted in a genuine belief of some baseline spirituality, including a belief in the afterlife, and that he sincerely tried to live by the moral code of his household gods. Here, spirituality has been reduced and relegated to one or two stylish dream images of the ferryman Charon departing across the river Styx. Much like Maximus, Lucius, who also suffers a painful personal loss, is driven by a single-minded thirst for revenge against Rome. Rage, Washington's character intuits, is his gift. And it's in the context of this rage-driven revenge that fuels the entire narrative, where the film and the gospel propose vastly different responses. It's worth noting that some scholars attribute the growing influence of the Christian community in the declining empire with ending the barbarity of the gladiatorial games and promoting a vision of universal equality that helped change views on slavery. One of those Christians, St. Cyprian of Carthage, also from North Africa, who was martyred roughly around the time depicted, appealed to his fellow Christians to trust in God's justice and not seek vengeance against those who do you wrong, even grave harm. This film called to mind another sword and sandal epic, William Wyler's 1959 remake of Lew Wallace's Ben-Hur, in which the eponymous Judah Ben-Hur, played by Charlton Heston, pursues a similar vendetta against his childhood friend turned enemy, the Roman tribune Messala, played by Stephen Boyd. His journey takes him from the Circus Maximus, who can forget the iconic chariot race, to Calvary, where, returning from the crucifixion at the film's climax, Judah recounts his conversion at the foot of the cross, saying, "And I felt his voice taking the sword out of my hand," as opposed to a sword literally cutting off a hand at this film's climax. As St. Thomas Aquinas notes, justice without mercy is cruelty. In terms of a moral message, the best this film has to offer is not to become like your enemy, quoting the Stoic philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius. However, Christ raises the bar, challenging us to love our enemy. To paraphrase a line that finds its way into both Gladiator movies, what we do in life, and with how much love we do it, echoes in eternity. So, to answer the question, are you not entertained? Sadly, not as much as I had hoped. Until next time, I'm David DiCerto, and this is The Catholic Lens.